The galaxy knew Queen Lyris as a ruler of pride and strength. She ruled the planet Zyphera, a world of tall crystal towers, glowing skies, and endless oceans of silver blue. Her people, the Zyphorians, believed themselves above most species. They were powerful, long-lived, and beautiful. For many years, none dared question her rule. But her throne carried a tradition. Every century, the Queen of Zyphora had to declare a marriage challenge. It was not a simple contest. It was a trial meant to prove the worth of anyone who wished to stand beside her. Strength alone was not enough. Mind, spirit, and heart would also be tested. Only one who completed all trials could claim victory. This time, when Queen Lyris stood before her people, her voice carried across the palace walls and into the stars through great transmitters. Her sharp crown glowed under the twin suns. She raised her hand and declared, "The marriage challenge of Zyphora is open. Let all species hear it. Let all who dare step forward." Her words spread across the galaxy, reaching dozens of star systems. Many races listened with interest, but most believed only a Zyphorian could succeed. The trials had been designed to break outsiders. Even the bravest warriors of other species had tried in the past, but none had survived to the end. Alien leaders sent their strongest champions. Some saw it as an opportunity to bind Zyphora in alliance. Others wanted to prove their species' superiority. They prepared their fastest ships and most skilled fighters. And then, far away on Earth, in a modest space station orbiting Mars, a human named Captain Elias Kane heard the message. He was not a king. He was not a warrior from a noble house. He was an explorer, a man who had spent his life chasing signals and seeking knowledge. He listened to the alien queen's words again, shaking his head with a small smile. A marriage challenge? Trials that no outsider has passed? His voice carried both amusement and curiosity. Most humans would have dismissed it. Earth was still new to the galaxy. Humanity had only begun building alliances, still considered young and untested by other species. But Elias was different. He believed humans were stronger than most gave them credit for, not because of size or weapons, but because of will. He sat in the small cabin of his ship Odyssey, looking at the stars. Something inside him stirred. "Why not a human?" he whispered. "Why not me?" Without waiting for approval from Earth's councils, Elias sent his response through the interstellar channel. His message was short, but bold. "I, Captain Elias, Kane of Earth, accept the marriage challenge of Zyphora." When the message reached the Zyphorian court, silence filled the throne room. The ministers and nobles looked at one another in disbelief. "A human?" one of the advisors hissed. "They are weak. They cannot endure the trials. This must be a joke." But Queen Lyris's eyes narrowed. She leaned forward on her throne, her golden robe flowing like liquid fire. "A human dares to claim my challenge?" "Yes, my queen," a court officer confirmed. "He is en route already." For a moment there was laughter in the hall. Many thought it was foolishness, yet Lyris did not laugh. She was a queen who valued courage, and to step forward when all others mocked was already a bold act. Something about the idea unsettled her. Weeks later, under the glow of Zyphora's suns, the Odyssey descended from the sky. The human ship was small compared to the grand vessels of other alien races, yet it landed firmly in the ceremonial courtyard. Hundreds gathered to watch. Tall Zyphorians in shining armor stood ready, along with representatives of rival species. The ship's ramp lowered and Elias Kane stepped out. He was tall by human standards, though not compared to most aliens. His dark hair was tied back, his uniform plain but neat. He carried no weapon. His eyes scanned the crowd calmly, as if he did not notice the whispers or the mocking smiles. "That is the human," a Zyphorian noble scoffed. "He looks ordinary." But Queen Lyris studied him carefully from her throne. There was no fear in his walk, no arrogance either, only quiet determination. Elias stopped before her, bowed slightly, and said in a clear voice, "I am Captain Elias Kane of Earth. I have come to take part in your marriage challenge." Gasps filled the courtyard. Few expected him to speak so boldly. The queen's lips curved in a faint smile, though her eyes remained sharp. "You know what this means, human?" she asked. Her voice was like steel wrapped in silk. "I know," Elias replied. "If I fail, I will not rise again, but if I succeed, I stand beside you." The crowd erupted in shocked whispers. No outsider had ever spoken to the queen with such calm honesty. Lyris tilted her head. Something in his words, something in his eyes, made her hesitate. She had expected bravado or fear, but instead she found quiet strength. "You may enter," she said at last. "But know this, your kind has never survived my trials. Do you truly believe you can succeed?" Elias smiled faintly. "I don't just believe. I will." The queen's eyes narrowed. For the first time in years, she felt a flicker of uncertainty. Was this human a fool or something else entirely? The ceremonial drums sounded. The challenge had officially begun. And across the galaxy, countless eyes turned toward Xiphora, eager to see how long the lone human would last. The palace of Xiphora glowed beneath the twin suns, its crystal towers sparkling like fire in the sky. The great courtyard was filled with nobles, warriors, and visitors from across the galaxy. All had come to witness the marriage challenge, for it was not just a tradition but a spectacle. In the center of the court, long banners waved with the royal crest. The queen's throne overlooked the ground where the trials would begin. Queen. Lyris herself sat tall, her crown gleaming, yet her eyes were not on the nobles or the warriors. They were fixed on one figure, the human Elias Kane. Most in the court whispered that the human would fail before the first trial was over. Too fragile, some said. Too small, others added. The Xiphorian warriors, towering and armored, laughed quietly among themselves. But Elias stood calmly, his hands resting behind his back, as if he were not the center of mocking stares. His expression was steady, his gaze fixed on the queen. The royal announcer stepped forward and raised his staff. "The first trial begins now, the trial of endurance." A great gate opened at the far end of the courtyard. Beyond it lay a vast arena, unlike anything Elias had ever seen. The ground was a shifting maze of stone platforms above rivers of molten crystal. Massive pillars rose and fell from the ground, some spitting bursts of flame, others collapsing, without warning. Bridges appeared, then crumbled into dust seconds later. It was a deadly obstacle course, alive and unpredictable. Elias studied it carefully, his brow furrowing slightly. "The task is simple," the announcer declared. "Cross the field and reach the beacon at the far side. Only those who survive may continue." The other challengers, aliens of different shapes and sizes, stepped forward. A reptilian warrior with scales like metal hissed, glaring at Elias. A tall insectoid clicked its mandibles, flexing razor-like arms. They all looked ready. When the gong sounded, the challengers surged forward. The reptilian leapt with powerful legs, landing on a stone pillar before it sank. The insectoid scuttled across a bridge with speed. The Xiphorian warriors moved with practiced grace, leaping from platform to platform. Elias took a breath and began to move. He was slower, careful with each step. When a bridge cracked beneath him, he jumped aside just in time, rolling onto a solid platform. Some aliens laughed, thinking his movements clumsy, but Queen Lyris leaned forward, noticing something others did not. "He studies the course," she whispered to herself. Indeed, Elias was not rushing blindly. He was watching, learning the rhythm of the collapsing platforms, the timing of the fire bursts, the patterns of the falling pillars. Where others relied on strength or speed, he used observation and timing. Midway through the course, the reptilian warrior roared as a flame burst struck him, sending him tumbling into the molten river. The crowd gasped as his form vanished in a flash of light. The insectoid, too fast for its own good, scuttled onto a bridge that crumbled beneath its weight. Its screech echoed before silence returned. Elias pressed onward. Sweat glistened on, his brow as heat pressed against him. His muscles burned, but his eyes never lost focus. He leapt across a broken gap, barely catching the edge of a platform. Hanging for a moment, he pulled himself up with a grunt. The crowd watched with mixed emotions. Some were impressed, others amused, and many simply waited for him to fail. But then Elias did something unexpected. Instead of jumping from platform to platform like the others, he paused, picked up a piece of broken stone and tossed it ahead. The stone landed on a platform that instantly collapsed. A murmur spread through the audience. "He tests the ground before moving," a noble whispered. "Clever," another admitted reluctantly. Step by step, Elias advanced, predicting dangers, before they struck. The last section was the hardest, a series of spinning pillars coated with flame. Sci-Fi warriors vaulted through with incredible grace, though two fell screaming into the molten rivers. Elias, slower, timed his movements with care. He slipped through the gaps, rolling beneath one pillar and leaping past another. Flames singed his arm, but he kept moving, teeth clenched. At last, Elias reached the beacon. He touched the glowing crystal, and the arena thundered with sound as the trial ended. The survivors gathered at the far side. Out of more than a dozen challengers, only. The next morning, the palace of Zephora hummed with anticipation. The first trial had already shaken the galaxy. A human had survived when stronger and faster aliens had fallen. Now, the second trial, the trial of the mind, was about to begin. Inside, the grand chamber, crystal walls reflected soft light. Long tables and glowing puzzles had been prepared. The test would not involve strength or endurance this time. It was a battle of logic, intelligence, and strategy. The announcer's voice carried across the chamber. The trial of the mind will measure wisdom and problem-solving. Each challenger must face puzzles designed to test reasoning, observation, and adaptability. The one who fails to solve them will be removed. The challengers stood ready. Two Xiphorian warriors, the armored giant from Andreli, the feathered alien from Tyros, and the lone human, Captain Elias Kane. Their faces showed different emotions. Confidence, pride, calm, and in some cases hidden fear. Elias studied the room. Strange puzzles floated in the air, spinning cubes with shifting colors, locked gates of light requiring sequences, and holographic battles of strategy where one false move meant defeat. He knew he was not the strongest, but his mind had always been his true weapon. When the gong sounded, the trial began. The Xiphorian warriors moved first, their long fingers pressing glowing symbols on a shifting cube. They had trained for this, for Xiphorians valued logic and calculation. The Andreli giant frowned deeply, his large hands clumsy as he tried to move delicate pieces on a table puzzle. The feathered Tyrosian tilted her head, her bright eyes scanning patterns with sharp focus. Elias, however, did not rush. He observed. He watched how the puzzles responded to wrong answers, how lights dimmed when certain choices were made, and how the cubes twisted in unexpected ways. Queen Lyris, seated high on her throne, leaned forward slightly. She noticed the difference. While others attacked the puzzles with speed, the human studied them, learning before committing. The first puzzle Elias faced was a holographic maze. A glowing sphere had to be guided through shifting walls. Most challengers forced the sphere forward, only to hit invisible traps that reset the maze. Elias paused. He traced the walls with his eyes, noticing faint glimmers where the paths were safe. With patience, he moved the sphere step by step, never rushing. Within minutes, the maze opened, and the sphere reached the end. The crowd murmured, in surprise. The second puzzle was harder, a strategy game of war projected in holographic form. Each challenger commanded a fleet of light ships against an opponent controlled by the system. The Tyrosian feathered alien spread her wings in excitement, her ships darting fast but chaotic. The Xiphorian warriors played with precision, yet they followed predictable moves. The Andreli giant struggled, his ships colliding with one another. Elias sat quietly, studying the simulation. Instead of attacking directly, he tested the system's reactions with small moves. He sacrificed minor ships to learn the opponent's tactics. Slowly, he formed a pattern. Then, with sudden sharpness, he struck. His fleet moved like a net, cornering the system's ships until they had no escape. The hologram froze, flashing victory. A hush fell across the chamber. He won, one noble whispered. Against the system itself? Another asked. Elias leaned back, breathing calmly as if it were nothing unusual. The Queen's eyes lingered on him. There was something unsettling in his calmness. He was not simply clever. He was adaptive, creative, and unafraid of failure. Finally came the third puzzle, a moral test hidden within logic. Each challenger was shown a hologram of a village under threat. Resources were limited. The decision was simple: who would be saved, and who would be left behind? The Xiphorian warriors quickly chose the strongest individuals, believing they would ensure survival. The Andrelli giant chose his own reflection, prioritizing himself above all. The Tarosian tried to balance, but her logic faltered, leaving gaps in her plan. Elias stood before his hologram. The faces of the villagers flickered in light: children, elders, workers, and warriors. He frowned, folding his arms. If he chose only strength, the future of the village would be hollow. If he chose only the weak, the village would not last. So he searched for balance. He selected workers to rebuild, children to carry hope forward, elders for wisdom, and warriors for defense. He saved fewer, but with diversity. The hologram shimmered and displayed. Sustainable solution found. Trial passed. The crowd erupted with shock. The moral puzzle was infamous. Few had ever reached a balanced solution. Elias lowered his hand slowly, his eyes rising to meet Queen Lyris's. She stared at him in silence, her heart stirring with something she could not admit before. Her court. Admiration. The announcer's staff struck the floor. The trial of the mind is complete. Only 2 challengers passed to the final trial: Captain Elias Kane of Earth and Xiphorian warrior Serath of the Blade. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Only 2 remained, the human and a Xiphorian elite. Serath, tall and armored, sneered at Elias. Luck will not save you in the final trial, human. Elias did not answer. He simply gave a small smile and a nod. His silence was sharper than any words. From her throne, Queen Lyris's expression did not change, but her thoughts burned within. The human had done more than survive. He had outthought, outplayed, and outbalanced creatures far older and stronger than himself. And in doing so, he had shaken the certainty of her people. As the chamber emptied, the queen remained seated, her gaze following Elias as he walked out. Something in her heart whispered again. This human was unlike any challenger before. The trial of the mind had ended. But the true test, the trial of morality and spirit, was yet to come. The palace of Zephora was tense on the morning of the final trial. Nobles whispered in the crystal halls, and alien guests filled the balconies of the grand arena. What had begun as entertainment had turned into something far greater. A human, the outsider, had survived not 1, but 2 trials. Now only 2 challengers remained: Elias Kane of Earth and Serath of the Blade, a Xiphorian warrior known for his pride and cruelty. Queen Lyris sat on her throne, her face calm as stone, though her mind was restless. She had expected Serath to reach the end. He was one of her people's finest fighters. But the human? No one had believed he would last this long, and yet here he stood steady and unbroken. The announcer raised his staff, his voice echoing. The third trial begins now, the trial of morality and spirit. This test is not of strength or mind, but of heart. Each challenger will face choices that reveal their true nature. There is no weapon, no shield, only the weight of decision. The floor of the arena shimmered. Illusions formed around the challengers, glowing with strange light. The first scene appeared: a village under attack. Alien families ran in fear as fires spread. A small group of soldiers begged for help while children cried in the streets. Serath reacted instantly. "Save the warriors!" he shouted. He rushed into the illusion, guiding the strong while ignoring the weak. To him, Warriors were the backbone of survival. The rest were left behind. The crowd cheered his decisiveness. Many Zephyrians agreed with his logic. Elias, however, walked into the burning illusion slowly. He looked at the frightened faces, the flames, the chaos. His eyes softened as he knelt beside a holographic child, lifting the small figure into his arms. "No one is left behind," he said quietly. He directed the villagers to move in groups. Warriors guarded the children, workers carried supplies, and elders guided the path. Elias worked with patience, creating order out of fear. The illusion shimmered, and suddenly the fire was gone. A message appeared above him: community saved, balance achieved. The audience gasped. The second scene appeared, a treasure chamber, filled with glowing crystals. A voice spoke from the illusion, echoing through the arena. "You may take wealth for yourself, or sacrifice it to save a stranger trapped in the shadows." Sarath did not hesitate. He grabbed the treasure, his voice loud. "Power must be claimed, why waste it on the weak?" The trapped figure faded into nothing, lost. Sarath stood taller, proud of his choice. Elias stepped forward, frowning at the glittering crystals. His hand hovered over them, but then he turned toward the shadowed figure. He broke the chains, pulling the stranger free. The crystals vanished, leaving him with nothing but the saved life. The voice rang out: "Selflessness chosen, worthiness proven." A murmur swept through the arena. For centuries, few had chosen sacrifice in this trial. Queen Lyriss's eyes narrowed, but her heart stirred. She had seen countless warriors fight for glory, but this human fought for others. It was different, unsettling, and strangely admirable. The third and final illusion appeared. This one was darker than the rest. Elias and Sarath both found themselves standing on a cliff above two paths. On one side, a group of strangers cried for help. On the other, a single figure stood, the queen herself. Her image looked fragile, trapped by chains of light. The announcer's voice carried, "One path must be chosen. Save the many or save the queen. The other will fall." The crowd went silent. All eyes turned to see what the challengers would. Dosarath laughed coldly. "The choice is obvious. Save the queen." He rushed forward toward her illusion, leaving the group of strangers to vanish into the void. The nobles cheered. To them, loyalty to the crown was everything. Elias froze, his heart heavy. He looked from the queen's chained figure to the terrify he knew the trial was meant to test low. The arena fell silent. Even the wind seemed to pause, as if the twin suns themselves waited for the queen's next words. Captain Elias Kane, the human, stood tall, his chest rising and falling from the effort of the trials. Around him, the crowd of aliens buzzed with disbelief. He had survived all three trials, endurance, mind, and morality, when many of their greatest warriors had failed. Queen Lyris remained seated on her golden throne, her expression unreadable. Yet her gaze followed Elias with intensity. This was not just a victory of body or mind. It was something deeper. A human had shown courage, intelligence, and compassion, all in one. Traits that no alien had combined so perfectly. The announcer stepped forward, raising his staff, and spoke. "By the laws of Zephora, Captain Elias Kane of Earth has completed the marriage challenge. He is victorious." The crowd erupted, in whispers and gasps. Some cheered, though many remained in shock. No outsider had ever achieved this. And a human? That was unprecedented. Sarath of the Blade, the Zyphorian warrior who had reached the final trial alongside Elias, snarled with anger. "This cannot be. A human has no right to stand here. This is dishonor to our race." Elias met Sarath's glare calmly. "I did not come to dishonor anyone," he said. "I only followed the trials as they were given." The queen's eyes narrowed. She had watched the entire contest. She had seen Elias choose the many over herself in the last trial. She had seen his intelligence and creativity in the puzzles. She had seen his endurance through impossible dangers. And now, standing before her, he waited with quiet dignity. A murmur went through the crowd. Some aliens whispered that the queen might act differently than expected. Could she truly recognize a human as worthy of victory? Queen Lyris rose from her throne, her golden robe flowing like liquid sunlight. Her voice was clear and commanding. "Captain Elias Kane," she said, "you have completed trials that even the strongest Xiphorians could not. You have shown courage, wisdom, and heart. You are victorious." The words echoed across the palace. Aliens turned to one another in shock. Humans were still considered young and fragile by most races. Yet here one stood, having achieved what many thought impossible. Sarath stepped forward, his fists clenched. "You may be victorious in trials, human, but you will never win respect. You have no place beside the queen." Elias smiled faintly, but did not speak. His calmness only made Sarath more furious. He stomped back, muttering threats that no one paid attention to. Queen Lyris, however, remained focused on Elias. She did not look at his strength, his size, or even his appearance. She looked at his decisions, his spirit, and his choices. They were unlike anything she had seen in her long life. "You have not only passed the challenge," she said, her golden eyes softening slightly, "but you have also changed the expectations of all who watched. You have shown that strength alone does not define worth. Heart and wisdom matter as well." The palace erupted in whispers. Many Xiphorians could not understand how a human could earn such praise. Some were proud of their queen's fairness. Others were confused, and a few were secretly fearful that their assumptions had been proven wrong. Elias bowed his head slightly. "I am honored, my queen," he said simply. "I only did what I could to meet the challenge." For a moment silence filled the arena. Then Queen Lyris spoke again, her tone firmer. "You may have won, human, but a challenge is more than survival. It is also about choice. And now, I offer you a choice in return." Elias lifted his gaze. "A choice?" "Yes," she said. "You may choose to remain on Zephora, to learn our ways and stand beside me. Or you may return to your world to continue your life among your people. The decision is yours alone." The crowd was stunned. No queen had ever given such freedom to a victor. Even the most worthy aliens had been bound by protocol. Elias considered the offer carefully. His heart still longed for adventure and knowledge. He was curious about her people, about this world, about the galaxy itself. "I wish to stay," he said finally, his voice calm. "I want to learn more before making any final decisions about returning to Earth." Queen Lyris's lips curved in a faint smile. It was a small gesture, but it carried warmth. She had expected rebellion, defiance, or perhaps fear. Instead, she saw respect and curiosity in the human's eyes. The court erupted into whispers again. Many could not believe what they had just witnessed. A human not only won the marriage challenge, but also had been given freedom to choose his path. Sarath, meanwhile, seethed silently in the corner. His pride had been shattered. The human had not only succeeded in the trials, but had also earned the queen's trust and admiration. The queen turned her gaze back to Elias. "You have changed the perception of your kind, Captain Kane. Your courage, intelligence, and morality have left a mark on Zephora. I will watch your journey with interest." Elias nodded. "Thank you, my queen. I will do my best to honor your trust." As the sun set over the palace, its golden light reflecting on the crystal towers, Elias stood with the queen watching from her throne. The human had done what no one expected, and in doing so, he had earned a place not only in the trials but also in the heart of a world that had doubted his species. For the first time in centuries, Queen Lyris felt a spark of curiosity and admiration she could not ignore. This human was not just a victor, he was a force of change, a reminder that greatness could come from the most unexpected places. The galaxy would talk about this day for years to come. A human had claimed the alien queen's marriage challenge, and the queen's reaction had shocked everyone. And for Elias Kane, The journey was only beginning. The palace of Zephora was quiet the morning after the trials ended. The twin suns shone softly over the crystal towers, and the air seemed lighter than usual. Captain Elias Kane had passed every test, outshining the galaxy's finest. And now he stood as something new, an honored guest and observer in the heart of Zephora. Queen Lyris watched him carefully as he moved through the palace halls. He did not carry himself with pride or arrogance. He walked with curiosity, respect, and a quiet confidence that intrigued her. In all her years, she had seen rulers, warriors, and scholars, but none had combined strength, intelligence, and morality the way he had. Captain Kane, she called softly, summoning him to her private chambers. Elias approached, bowing slightly. "My queen, you have completed the trials and you have chosen to remain, at least for now," she said. Her golden eyes studied him. "I want you to see Zephora as it truly is, its people, its culture, its challenges. You will learn, and I will watch. And perhaps you will teach us something as well." Elias nodded. "I will do my best, my queen. I want to understand your world, your people, and why you value the choices you make." The queen's lips curved in the faintest smile. "You may start with the city of crystals," she suggested. "There the wisdom of generations is kept. The scholars will welcome you." As they walked through the palace gardens, Elias noticed Xiphorians staring openly. Some were curious, some cautious, but most could not hide surprise. A human had claimed what no outsider ever had, and now he walked freely among them. "This is remarkable," Elias said softly, looking at the gleaming gardens. Strange plants glowed in shades of blue and gold, and fountains of light shimmered over crystal bridges. "Your world. It is unlike anything I imagined." Queen Lyris's gaze softened. "Zephora is a place of beauty and challenge. You have faced its greatest trials, yet there is still much to see." Over the next days, Elias explored the city. He met scholars who shared knowledge of Zephora's history, engineers who demonstrated incredible technology, and children who laughed freely in the crystal streets. Everywhere he went, he showed humility and interest, asking questions and learning quickly. The queen observed silently from a distance, intrigued by how a human adapted to her world. Unlike many Xiphorians, he did not judge or demand. He watched, listened, and learned. And in that, Lyris found something she had not expected: admiration. One evening, the queen invited Elias to the palace balcony. The twin suns were setting, casting long golden beams across the city. "You have changed the expectations of your kind," she said quietly. "The galaxy assumed humans were weak, untested, and fragile. Yet here you are, proving that courage, intelligence, and morality can come from anywhere." Elias looked out at the glowing towers, the citizens moving below, and then back to her. "My queen, I only acted as any person should, doing what is right, learning what I could, and respecting those around me. If that surprises your people, perhaps they have underestimated what humans can offer." A faint laugh escaped her, musical and soft. "Perhaps they have. Perhaps I have." Days turned into weeks. The trials, once a source of spectacle and pride, became a turning point. Xiphorians began to reconsider what strength truly meant. Other aliens in the court watched quietly, realizing that a human had changed the queen's perspective, and perhaps their own. One afternoon, Elias and Lyris walked along a bridge that spanned a river of glowing silver water. "You have not only survived the challenge," she said, "but you have also shown patience, kindness, and wisdom. Many of my people never truly do that, even in their lifetimes." Elias smiled. "Perhaps your people are strong in different ways, but strength without care can be empty." The queen paused, looking at him. There was something in his words, simple,